Hello, everybody. Drasco here from 10knorm.com, where my main focus is to help guide heart-centered entrepreneurs under 10K months to transcend all of the blind spots that are keeping them from thinking, feeling, acting, and authentically marketing so they can normalize their own versions of 10K months. And on today's episode, we have a Real Talk segment where I bring in a heart-centered entrepreneur on their way towards their own 10K norm. And we have some real talk about what's currently their biggest challenge towards their 10K norm. And in that conversation, we're going to explore who they are, why they do what they do. And then live on the call, I get to help them get out of their own way on a challenge that they're currently experiencing towards their 10K norm. And for today's guest, we have Elliot the Coach, who is a confidence coach. And he's been through the gamut with regards to the stuff that he's done in the last 10 years of personal development. Experimenting with all of the nuttiest fads you could think of. So this is, I think, and we can get into this, his way of walking his own talk and doing his own exploration. So everything from carnivore diets to water fasting, different kinds of sleep protocols, psychedelics, playing around with being a digital nomad and earning passive income. And all of that journey has brought him today to go on our podcast. So Elliot, thank you very much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Drasco. I'm psyched to be here. Thanks for the introduction as well. Sort of a twisted amount of pride going on when I hear all of those things read back to me.
Well, listen, it's so often that, we get to toot our own horn. So by all means, I try and do as much as I can with the introductions to highlight all the cool things that people are doing. And on that note, I've kind of, what I know about you is what I've seen in that intro. But why don't you give us a breakdown of who you are and how you got to be where you're at right now?
Okay, yeah, I'd love to. So I am 29 years old, which is the thing that I think makes me stand out as a coach the most. I came to coaching through the process you just mentioned. So I have always been obsessed with self-development of one kind or another, to my detriment in many cases. And those various fads that I went through, stacked on top of a career in finance, in trading the financial markets, basically led to me having a nervous breakdown about 4 years ago. And I mean, I say basically, it did lead to me having a nervous breakdown. There's a we may get into it later. There's a very unique part of the story where the people who ran the company that I used to work for, and there were only about 6 or 7 of us that worked there, ended up making the front page of our national newspaper for stealing money from their clients. Never proven, but they were accused of it. And all of this kind of situation, plus the years of pushing myself way too hard in terms of self-development leading up to that point, led to this breakdown. And the two things that I credit the most with pulling me out of that breakdown were receiving coaching and doing, in my own kind of relentless style, doing just so much self-reflective writing. And that process was so transformative for me that I wanted to do it to others. And it was a perfect time because I needed a new career. So it was kind of like, cool, well, let's do coaching then. And to be completely honest, I originally, when I decided I was going to go into the heart-centered professions, wanted to do counseling. Hadn't heard of, I'd heard of coaching because I was into people like Tony Robbins and things, but I didn't really know it was an available career path. I wanted to be a counselor, and I spoke to a few counselors, and they all said, counseling is kind of more of a after you've had your major career person's game. It's 4 years of university, quite a lot of money, blah 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 blah. And one of them was like, why don't you look at coaching? And the business-minded version of me, the kind of part of me that was much more interested in positive psychology than helping people get through the really bad times, really resonated with that. So, you know, a 3 or 4 month course later, much better than 4 years, and I was ready to go. So that's the genesis. That's the story.
Very cool. That's like the, you know, Cole's Notes milestone version of the story. And there was a few things that stood out for me that I would love to dive into. So first one being, so often as I do more of these calls and more of these like episodes, the commonality, not necessarily with everybody, but with a large majority of the people, myself included, is there's this arc of breaking down and disaster that ultimately leads people to go in the direction that they're currently going into. So I'd love to go a little bit deeper into, you know, your arc from both, okay, you had this, you know, the detriment of personal development. So I think that that's an interesting one, as well as the kind of circumstantial crashes of, you know, being in what was clearly a toxic environment, if that's what they're going to get accused of. So yeah, I'd love to just have, you know, more of your input on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a pretty typical story arc in terms of breakdown. It helped me so much that I wanted to help others. I feel like that is most coaches. So the, again, I guess it's pretty typical, and maybe only typical from a coach's standpoint, because we see so many people like this who've kind of gone through the washing machine of self-development, reading the books, listening to the Tony Robbins style hustle, 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 just do more, you can always never waste a second. And I suppose that really attracts people. I'm going to talk from the first person. Sorry, I'll stop talking like I'm not being coached. So it really attracted me because since about the age of 18 or so, I've had this kind of uni focus, this drive. I went from basically being a pot smoking teenager with very little drive. I just liked playing World of Warcraft. That was pretty much it. To suddenly I really wanted to get after it. And the original thing that drew me into a life of achievement was music. I really wanted to be a DJ, first of all, a famous DJ. And after that, following that, a music producer. And I went to university at about 19. So I was doing this degree in business, and just something switched in me when I realized I wanted to do something creative and do something that involved beating the odds. As you know, anyone who makes it in music knows, you have to really beat the odds. It suddenly became part of my identity that I was somebody who was just willing to do more than everybody else, whether that's willing to hustle more, willing to take bigger risks, whatever. Suddenly, really, I mean this, suddenly became part of my identity. So your Tony Robbinses, your Tim Ferriss kind of people who back then used to really promote self-development from an external point of view, like, what are you putting in your body? What's your routine like? What are the hacks, the tips, the tools, the techniques that you need in order to be a better or the best version of yourself? No, there was no real interest for me in going inwards for any of this. It was all about using my body, myself, as an instrument in order to get the best results. So the rise of people like Tim Ferriss really hooked me, and podcasts, and getting loads of books about self-development. And I was on the internet a lot, not looking at these ridiculously niche forums where they'd talk about things like polyphasic sleep, which is one of the things you mentioned in the intro. And I was just I really felt like I I lacked something. Like for me, it was energy. I really felt like I lacked energy. Didn't lack discipline, didn't lack motivation, lacked energy, struggled with sleep. And so I was always trying to fix something. I was always trying to fix something. Couldn't always tell you what I was trying to fix, but I was always trying to fix something. And the idea of a reasonably quick fix or some tool or technique I could use that would be like pressing a button in me, pressing a reset button in me that would make me just better, just stand out and have the energy I needed to match the ambition that I had. That really spoke to me. So, you know, cue me suddenly having, I was very impressionable. I only needed to read one success story from a random faceless person on the internet to be committed enough and motivated enough to try something totally risky to my own health, like the carnivore diet, like this sleep schedule. And yeah, I just rinsed through these things. Most of them wouldn't work. Most of them would work for a very short period. You know, it's like when you first go to the gym and you're really committed for the first 2 or 3 weeks and you think, oh, I've got this. And then inevitably it doesn't stick. But to give you one example, which I think is quite a fun one. I did this sleep schedule called the Uberman sleep schedule. I think there's probably still a very small community online of people that do this. There was only one forum with about 100 people in it that I could find that even thought this was an idea worth talking about. But it's essentially where you sleep take 20-minute naps every 4 hours, and that's it. That's all you do. Just repeat that cycle 24 hours a day, you know, all week, all month. There's some very ropey science behind as to why it might work. You know, if you force your body to only use the 3rd and 4th levels of deep sleep, then they will do so and you'll become very efficient at sleep and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I did that for about a month. I slept only 20-minute naps every 4 hours for about a month. And although there were periods of like euphoria where I'd be awake at 4 in the morning and I'd be thinking, I don't know, there's something really special about being awake and getting stuff done when everyone else is asleep. You probably experience that too, but I just suddenly feel this euphoria and I'd like go out on a walk and the sun would be coming up and I'd be walking around my town, like, you know, just absolutely buzzing. And that was great. But the other 23 hours of the day, I would be like a zombie, totally wreaking havoc on my mental health without me really realizing it. And my physical health. It probably took me like 6 or 7 months to sleep deprivation off. So, and I would do things like this and I would just commit and I would just have discipline and I would be really proud of that, of who I was. Same with when I ate nothing but red meat for a month. Not proud of it, by the way. This was before it became everyone became very aware that red meat wasn't very bad for the environment. But I felt awful the whole time. I did it for a month again, and I just felt awful the whole time. I just committed because I thought there was a light at the end of the tunnel. There was some like energetic state of enlightenment that I would reach if I could just push myself harder than anyone else. And in and amongst this time, this was a period of like 7 or 8 years between the age of 18 and 25 or so. I had loads of success. I didn't get what I actually wanted, which was this energy. I now see that of what I wanted was basically just peace of mind, not energy. But in and amongst that time, I was experiencing massive success in my studies. Socially, I had a really awesome social circle. I organized like a 400-person ski trip at university. So I kind of had a really weird experience of being a very, very minor celebrity to like a group of about 500 people. I was kind of a big deal. And so all of this stuff was going on that was reinforcing that my behavior was working in some way. And like I say, this snowballed. I then, after I left university, tried to commit to making music for a year. So I moved back into my parents' house. I had a studio in their garage, locked myself in there for 14 hours a day, pretty much every day. Again, just like, I was like, there's something in it if I just work harder than everyone else. Obviously, I'm only human. I probably only spent about 2 or 3 hours of those 14 hours actually making music. But that was how I everything in my life at that point was about music. Even going to see friends, it was like I would go to see friends because I'd read in a book somewhere that I should be balanced. I should have a social life or it won't be good for my productivity. So even things that are just fun and you just do because for no reason, you do them because you want to. I turned that in my head into like, and it had to be something that benefited my future as a musician. Anyway, after about a year and a half of making music, I had found something else to sort of put that passion into, which was financial speculation, trading, which I taught myself. Started putting in 14-hour days on that, ended up getting hired, moved to this really horrible, hopefully no one from there's listening, kind of horrible city in England called Swindon, very heartless city. Lived in a van, parked in the office car park because it was an intern, they weren't paying me. I lived in a van, used to spend all my waking hours in the office, shower in the office, eat in the office, maybe we'd go for a walk at lunchtime, come back, sleep in the van, do it all again. And this went on and on and on and on and on, probably for about 3 or 4 years. All the while I'm trying all these crazy fads. And that's when I actually spent a couple of years in Canada. I decided after a year or two of living in this horrible city, I was like, right, my dream is to live in a ski resort, is to be a trader, only spend like 2 or 3 hours a day making money. The rest of the time I can ski or write music. That was the dream at the time. That was what everything was about. So I was like, right, my trading's not going very well in England. So why don't I must have read this in a book somewhere. Why don't I burn my bridges and force myself to get good, basically, to really start taking it seriously. I'll move to Canada. Didn't even get a working permit because I was like, no, I want to have to be forced to live off my trading. So I moved to Canada, tried to do that. Anyway, obviously the trading didn't produce the goods. So I ended up, fortunately, wangling myself a work permit in Canada, did stay out there, enjoyed myself, still traded, but worked in a bar on the side. About 2 years after that, came home because I got offered a promotion, better pay, much bigger trading account, so more opportunity for commission. Came home, and about a month after coming home, really weird stuff started happening at the trading firm. They started hiring in ex-SAS private security. People started turning up demanding money. We stopped getting paid for like 2 months or so. We didn't get paid before it all went to shit. Clients stopped getting paid. It was like a mess. But what was interesting is I was so invested, time-wise and emotionally. I was so invested in becoming a trader that I was able to trick myself into just completely, I would explain away all of these weird things that were going on. So would everyone else in the office, because we were all the same age, we all had the same dream. So we all sort of confirmation biased each other into Anyway, end of that month, they basically say, don't come in anymore. We don't hear from them for a few months until they turn up in the papers, having been accused of stealing this money. Like I say, it was never proven. I don't think they ever even went to court. And yeah, cue dreams crashing down, suddenly didn't have my identity anymore. I was so worried that I'd wasted, my kind of 4 of my prime career years on this, just chasing a dragon. I was getting loads of evidence from my outer world that being a trader in the way I was actually wasn't even possible. I'd been like basically sold a dummy by the online trading education industry, plus my 2 mentors that ended up in the papers. I've been betrayed by these 2 guys who are my role models. I was physically exhausted from all the stuff I've been putting my body through. I was so anxious because, well, I don't need to explain why I was so anxious, all of the above. And body and mind just both went, yeah, that's enough. And I basically didn't get out of bed for about a month. I remember for a good 2-3 months after that, every time I looked at a computer screen or something that required me to concentrate, it was like the thing between my ears just went to like mush, and I couldn't. It was so surreal, and that really, really scared me because everything that I thought was good about myself involved the fact that I had discipline, I was smart, and I had motivation to do more than most people and ambition. And suddenly all those three things just got taken away. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was a very long answer.
Yeah, I mean, that one definitely went into all of the details. So I appreciate it. I think there's a lot of themes that start to come up that I've covered both on the podcast and within the program. Primarily the ones that like stand out for me is oftentimes we don't really know what game we need to play, right? And like, to me, it often sounds like you were trying to win a game that you didn't even want to play to begin with. Every single thing that I devoted all of my capacities to ended up being lackluster because I never intentionally went into them asking, what is it I want? Because if we know what we want, then it's a lot easier to choose what game we need to play to get it, right? So you chose a bunch of different things, you devoted all of your energies to it, but it was like blindly, right? Like, I just played this game, somebody said I should win this, the onus of the external and the other is more important than my own, so this is the game I need to win because that's where the success exists, or the fulfillment exists, or the peace, or whatever your thing might have actually been. So I think, yeah, that is like, it comes out abundantly. So I'm just curious how that lands for you.
Yeah, it lands. That's the most interesting one there is music, because I was attached to the idea of being a famous musician. And I think without realizing, even though I would have said on the surface level, on the intellectual level, I would have said, oh no, of course I'm not doing it for the fame. I think I really was attached to not necessarily the fame, but just being, I was attached to being good at things and, achieving it was, and to prove something, to prove something to someone. It wasn't about, like you said, it wasn't about doing it because I actually really loved music or making music. And of course, yeah, with the trading, it was all about some future image I had of myself, that I was working towards. It wasn't because I loved trading.
Yeah, there's this very palpable search for significance throughout the story, right? You didn't put all of your energies into becoming, the best knitter in the world, right? Everything that you went all in for were things that were going to be perceived as significant. I can sleep like nobody else. I planned a ski trip where I became a small celebrity. I chose music because then I could really be significant. I chose to make money day trading because like that's a cool story, right? Like you didn't go into anonymous things that you could potentially become like really good at, right? So this search for significance, search for the external, certainly comes out as a thread throughout the whole story. So what I'm curious about now, because you've clearly done, a lot of work on yourself, and the journey to becoming a coach seems to follow that arc as well. What is it that you coach people on now?
So until about a year ago, I would have said, I mean, I still coach people on anything, but my niche has sort of developed itself in confidence, and especially confidence in the realm of careers, making big transitions, making big decisions without fear. So yeah, when I reflect on it, it is quite interesting because I make interesting, such a crap word, sorry, use a better word. It is quite enlightening because I help people to make those transitions into what they really, really, really want. And through that process, I help them have confidence in all other areas of their life. And I've always been someone who, even when I was 18, before becoming a coach, I was very sold on the idea or the belief of following your dream, following your heart. Even trading, which most people probably would say, it seems a bit of a weird thing. People don't really follow their heart towards money. I was following my heart towards a dream lifestyle, and trading was the tool to get there. So I've always been, on the surface, I've always been a strong believer in find out what you really want and go after it. What I didn't realize until I became a coach and until I had a lot of coaching, I'm still having coaching, is just how complex for some people it can be to figure out what they really want. Well, it could not even complex, but just how easy it is to fool yourself into thinking the road you're on is the one you really want to be on, when after 2-3 hours of having a conversation like this, someone can go, oh my god, yeah, it's the complete opposite, or it's something completely different. So I find that so fascinating and intoxicating that I can, and you can clearly get underneath someone's surface layer, to the point where they think completely differently about their lives within, like I say, some 2, 3, 4, whatever, sometimes 10 it might take sessions. I find that completely intoxicating. I think when I was being coached that first time, I found it absolutely mind-blowing that this person, who was a career coach, because I was far too caught up in my own ambitious, overly masculine energy to hire a counselor or a life coach. It had to be like a career coach, that'll be rather than seeming like I didn't know what I was doing. So anyway, yeah, that was a ramble, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, because it was about what is it that you coach people on now, and it seems like it's followed the same trajectory that you had gone through, which is realizing you can spend a lot of time and energy trying to win a game you didn't want to play to begin with. And the reason that happens is because we seldom take the step back and reinforce those multiple steps to actually say, okay, well, what is it that I actually want? And then do my thinking, feeling, and acting actually align with those things. Because oftentimes it's the one or two things done well that actually get us, 80-90% of the way to where we want, but we dilute that in so many different ways. So yeah, that I can see the connection there. So on that note, we're here with regards to helping heart-centered entrepreneurs achieve, 10K months and normalize those. So what do you feel like is standing in your way of creating your version of your 10K norm?
Couple of things. I really don't enjoy using social media. I ethically and morally have a problem with it, so I'm not on it. I don't like marketing particularly. So those things, would make a big difference. In terms of once I actually get someone on the phone, no problems there. I love what I do. I love the difference I make. I'm very confident. Once I'm speaking to someone that either they are right for me, in which case great. And if they're not right for me, still very happy to spend the time with them, help them in any way I can. So that's all good. But I must say, I hope this doesn't make me too difficult, but I'm not on a 10K month. However, over the last year or so, I have become far more relaxed about getting there. Like I'm confident that it's going to happen, and I'm not probably through some sort of strange PTSD from the 10 years of pushing myself too hard. I'm very much okay with letting it happen as it happens. So I love discovering the blocks, but I'm in no rush, and I'm certainly not going to put myself in a place where I'm stressed out or worried or pressured to get there. So removing blocks, awesome. If they, but forcibly motivating or disciplining myself to, work twice as hard or something, I just don't care about that anymore. I guess I sort of style myself in a way as a coach as the kind of antidote to your Gary V, Tony Robbins, hustle, hustle, hustle. So yeah, I hope that doesn't make me too much of a complicated case.
No, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, I'm not here to argue with what is, it's just whatever's present. So I guess my follow-up question to you then would be, are those things necessary?
Like marketing and social media and pushing myself.
And pushing yourself, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say 29 days out of a month, no. And then there'll usually be one day in a month or, 1 hour in a week where maybe I haven't had any new inquiries that week or over the last couple of weeks. And I think, should I be doing something else? Should I be doing more? So there are times, I'm not saying I've broken through and reached ultimate Zen. There are times when I do think, yeah, there's more people I could be helping, and there are pretty obvious ways, like you mentioned right at the start of the call, there are pretty obvious ways in which I could be helping myself to do them. But I kind of work with myself and work on those thoughts, either with my coach or on with myself, to come back to peace and come back to a place of service rather than trying to build a business. And it's okay again. In terms of the marketing, Do I need those things? I don't know. I really don't know. I've built the business on almost no marketing. Like I'm on Numi. Have you heard of Numi? Kind of.
I have not, no.
No. So it's like a coaching directory, like a life coaching directory. So I'm on there. I'm on a couple of other directories. So I guess I do some marketing actually. Like, but I don't push those. I just wait for the people to come, and then the rest of it's kind of in word of mouth. So I don't think I need marketing, but it would speed things up a lot. And as much as I'm going to contradict myself here and say I wasn't in a rush, I wouldn't turn down things being sped up a lot. It's just how much effort I've got to put in to get there.
Okay. So in that case, what is it that you want?
I don't know. And I say that going from a place, like I've explained, of feeling like I knew exactly what I wanted, to then being a coach and getting a lot of coaching and figuring out what it was I really wanted to help people, still to ski a lot and like live the life of adventure. But I think I've come through that as well, just to like, I don't really mind. Like I do when I'm not at my best self. Of course I want more money, want more time, want more freedom, want to be traveling more. But actually, really, I'm surviving, more than surviving, from my coaching, and I have a very good work-life balance as a result. And I'm spending this winter in a ski resort, so whilst I coach still. So yeah, honestly, I feel like I've got most of what I want. But here we go. Here's one thing. I would like some security financially, some more security than I have, because as I get older, there's more of a drive to start a family, and that's something that I don't think my current situation would support. So
Okay, that's fair. And what lights you up?
lights me up. Getting to the end of a coaching call and really feeling like that person's come away making a difference. Get a real buzz from that. Learning about new ways to help people or help myself. Snowboarding, that lights me up, as much, if not more than anything else. New connections, or old connections, but especially new connections with people. I mean, socially, not in a career context. Yeah, all of those things.
Okay. And while certainly I can feel some of the joy there as far as like snowboarding, social connections, helping somebody through something, they are all externally focused, right? In relation to the other, I can experience something nice. Okay. What about with the absence of those? What lights you up?
Peace, joy, and love.
Okay. And are you living those things now in relation to your coaching business?
For the most part, yeah, I can say with confidence, yeah. Like I said, there is usually one day a month, maybe more, maybe less, where doubt sets in and the peace leaves. But yeah, And I suppose that doubt is not, it's never about now. I have enough now. It's about the sustainability of it moving forward.
So get more specific. What do you mean when you say sustainability? Of what specifically?
Okay. So what if, so there's a fear, what if where I'm getting most of my clients from, one of these listing sites, what if that dies a death? What happens then? What if I did want to start a family, or I did want to move and live and settle somewhere more expensive? Would I be able to, if I hadn't already, would I be able to ramp it up to the level it needs to be?
Well, would you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, generally, I've come to the understanding that I work as hard as I need to. If I feel I need more, or if there's a bit of pressure coming from externally, I rise to it. And if there's not, then I work for as much as I need. So yeah, but I think I could have it, but I think it would cause quite a lot of stress, going after it, because certainly did the last time I went after something this hard. And the first 2 years of my coaching career were, I wasn't as chill as I am about it now, and they were a struggle. Like there was kind of a constant stress. Like I just, even though I was constantly developing, in some respects I had replaced trading, and before that music, with coaching. It was like another thing that I could be better at than everyone else. So I think I know that there's potential to slip back into that should I suddenly find myself external circumstances needing me to rise to the challenge.
Got it. So just kind of listening and then reflecting back, and you can let me know if this resonates or not. So there's this element of, right now, I have set the bar to be very achievable. I'm comfortable with regards to where I'm at. I don't need a lot. I'm prioritizing peace. I'm prioritizing balance. I'm prioritizing just, like as little rumbling as I possibly can. That doesn't really require a lot of money, which means it doesn't really require a lot of marketing, and I'm totally cool with that. As soon as I contemplate stepping out of that, so whether that be to start a family, the concerns about the financial security that comes from, like, if what I have right now, while comfortable as a house of cards, is that actually secure? If it's not, that's concerning, but I'm comfortable and I don't particularly want to think about what the next step might be, because when I did want more, I completely and utterly like exhausted and grinded myself to like a pulp. So before I continue, is that accurate, or would you clarify anything?
The only thing I clarify is that it's not that I don't want to think about it. I don't really feel any sense of resistance to thinking about it. I just don't really think about it. It's like, it's something that would be cool. It would be cool to have more money. It would be cool to have more clients. It would be a relief for God himself to come and say, hey, your client stream source is secure for the rest of your life. Don't worry. but I don't feel I need it. I don't feel I'm not resisting the thought of ramping up. I hope that makes sense. That's the
Right. So
only
I'm
thing I've
not
changed.
against the thought of more. I'm not against the getting of the more. But if it comes to me in a way where I don't necessarily have to ramp up beyond a state that I'm comfortable in, then I'm okay to receive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say in that case, you're getting exactly what you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's not far off getting what I want. Yeah. It's there you go. There's some language that's probably pretty revealing. I don't know. I'm kind of in.
Like what's coming up for you right now internally in terms of
What's coming up for
feeling
me
or thought?
is that I don't want to. Is that I think here's what's coming up for me. Is that I think I've realised that I am getting what I want, and I am very happy with where I'm at, and what I coach people on is, or what I help people with if they want to go in that direction, is a general confidence that things are going to turn out right. They don't need to force everything for it to turn out. They need to impose themselves on the outer world in order for things to go their way. And generally, when I've come from a place like that in my own life, I've actually ended up getting cooler things in the outer world anyway, when I've been more chilled and more relaxed about it. So I think I'm realizing in this moment that I'm practicing what I'm preaching, and I feel like I also feel like I feel there's a little bit of guilt in me that that probably doesn't make me a very good podcast guest for you. I've got to.
That's on me. That's not on you. So don't worry about that. And I would actually argue against that it doesn't, because this is a common thing in that to strive for more, like I talk about this thing with regards to like more versus closer, something that was taught to me. So often by neglecting to define where we want to go, we neglect to define what moving closer towards that is. So we opt for more, right? Kind of like the first arc of your story. I wanted more trading. I wanted more significance. I wanted more. That oftentimes just leaves us, like I said, winning a game we might not have wanted to play. So I do very much think it's relevant. And on the flip side, it's not up to me or anybody else to tell you, this is how you need to live your life, or these are the goals you need to have, right? This is called 10K norm because it tends to encapsulate I think the first milestone for most hearts and entrepreneurs kind of going towards the next level. But that's a totally different story. What I would just reflect back your way, and the reason why I said you're getting everything that you want, is from the beginning, like since we started talking, there was this semblance that the external is prioritized over the internal, right? Like my identity early on was always looking for that significance externally. That completely got me burned out and grinded down and not in a good place. Okay. Now I've shifted gears. This is much more comfortable. This is much more okay. This is much more safe. So I don't want to go back there. And the life that I live right now is completely and utterly in tune to maintain that. So everything with regards to what you're saying, if, God came down and just sent me clients, if I had the perfect thing that would just send me clients, cool, I would accept them. Right. But essentially, that's a nice way to talk about I'm comfortable being a victim. right? I'm not saying you need a much more aggressive or ambitious goal. That's up to you to determine. What I am inviting you to consider is that you right now have a very nicely packaged story to justify all of the results that you're getting. Every single narrative, from the relief, from all I want is peace and zen. Yeah, sometimes I worry, but whatever, it'll come. I'm in the flow. I'll figure it out. It'll come. That's all good and great. Those are all stories that support where you are right now. So while it is fine, it's also fragile, right? Because at some point that can crack, and you may want to at some point decide to go forward. You're going to have to change who you are. You're going to have to change the narratives to get there. So that's what's coming up for me. So I'm just curious, how does all that land for you?
Well, initially, I felt myself getting a little defensive inside, being like, hey, no, that's my Zen. um, honestly, it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like a victim. I don't feel like, I guess it reflects, for me, it reflects my philosophy, which is quite an Eastern Taoistic philosophy, that the world works in its own, nature unfolds in its own way, and I'm open to receiving, but I'm not using force. I'm not imposing my will over it. I guess you could say it's an easy way of living, and I'm proud that it's an easy way of living. It doesn't cause me, doesn't worry me that other people may see it as aimless, that other people may see it as lacking in anything, or lacking in ambition, especially. Because my experience, my gut, my heart tells me that loud and clear at the moment, and I'm open to its change, but it tells me loud and clear that I'm right where I need to be. And yeah, I guess this conversation has really helped me clarify that. And I don't feel fear that the rug will be pulled from underneath me. And I do have confidence that if it were, then, I've already tried to start again 3 or 4 times. I'm sure I could do it even better next time. So, yeah, I mean, it feels present to me. It feels present rather than future focused. And that's kind of my philosophy. So I guess it's nicely in tune with that.
Yeah, I actually would agree 100% with everything that you said, right? It's kind of was like, yeah, like you're actually getting everything that you want. And if you don't want more, like, cool, that's the epitome of your free will to choose whatever it is you want. I guess I was just sharing it as an example with regards to the distortion of that can be you go too far down that, like we've gone too far into the grind road, right? You go too far into the let it flow road. You're basically giving up your inherent power towards what circumstance gives you, right? So it's two sides of the same coin of I'm not owning what I'm, wanting and creating. But if you're at peace with regards to being where you are, like who am I or anybody else to argue with you needing to be anywhere else? So Does that make sense with regards to the reflection?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I guess it comes back to my values really shifting from being more, having more, achieving more, to being at peace. And like you say, there is giving up a certain amount of ownership. There is giving up what the Western world sees as power in doing so. But I guess it serves me in terms of, by giving up that power and just moving with the flow, there is peace. So, and there isn't fear, which is how I define, well, it's kind of how I define confidence in the way I coach. It's, you know, I know the typical saying is, courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. And I agree with that. And we all feel fear, we all feel self-doubt at some point. But I also think that confidence is the habit of acting in spite of fear, to the point where things don't really inspire that much fear anymore, because you're so used to noticing the sensation of fear in you, looking towards whatever it is causes that sensation, and then acting upon it. And yeah, it that brings about a lot of peace. And I think also it allows kind of the best of both worlds of moving through the world in a way that is creative, and is powerful, but from right now, from the present moment, rather than from some idea of the future I had, or trying to guess what's going to happen in the future and move towards it.
Right, because that at the end of the day ends up being speculation. So I agree, right? If I find the peace in, you know, just what's in front of me right now, cool, that's where I want to stay, because that right now in this season of my life is what I'm prioritizing. So 100% I would agree with you. So in terms of all of this, like, do you feel complete with it, or is there still something that's coming up?
Good question. Yeah, I think I feel complete. Yeah, there's clarity. The clarity that I've had in the past has kind of got a re-shining from this conversation, that I am where I need to be, I'm where I want to be, and yeah, it'll happen. It's just a matter of time, really. And you know, I do, probably doesn't sound like it, I do put effort in. Like, you know, I do go on podcasts. I do, you know, I have a system in place for ensuring that referrals turn into clients and all that kind of thing. And I'm in a privileged position where I've done a lot of the work that needs to be done in order to, you know, train up and have the skills needed to get paying clients and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it's a privileged position to be in, but yeah, I certainly feel like I'm complete and I've got what I needed.
Awesome. That's what it's about. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that. So in that case, since you do feel complete, why don't you just give, you know, kind of the floor is yours. Tell people, you know, where to find you, who you work with, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, like I said, you can't find me on social media. You can find me, I've got a website, I've got an email address. Yeah, if you want to find me, best thing to do is email me. I'll talk to anyone. I'll talk to people, potential clients, for a couple of hours before we even discuss the idea of money. So, you know, if anyone wants to do that, go for it. But yeah, I mean, website, email address, if anyone wants to chat about, you know, any of the stuff that you and I have been talking about, then go for it. But if not, that's also cool. And yeah, it's been great to chat, Jasko. Thank you very much. And sorry for being, I don't know, still feel like I've been quite difficult as a guest, but.
Not from my end. I mean, what comes up is what comes up. That's the nature of this thing. So, you know, if it feels complicated, I would look into why that might be. But, you know, from my vantage point, this is also what I signed up for, doing impromptu sessions like this. So no issues on my end, but we'll include all of the contact info and stuff in the show notes when this goes live. But yeah, thank you for being on, and we'll see you guys on the next one.